Good morning, everybody. As we go to the Chumash of today, we're holding Parshas Mates Maseh. We're holding the second reading in those two Parshas, chapter 31, verse number 13. We're holding the middle of the story of the destruction of Sichon and Bilam. Vayetzu, and they came back with all the spoils. Verse 13. Vayetzu Moshe v'Eleazar Kohen v'chol nisi Yisrael Eidel Akrasim. And Moshe and Eleazar and the priests went out with all the princes and the entire community Lekrasim towards them. Which was outside the tent. Rashi says, since they saw the Jewish youth going out to grab some of the spoils, so they realized that they had to take control of the situation. Moshe Rabbeinu got angry on the officers of the army, the officers of the thousands, the heads, the officers of the hundreds, that returned from the army. Now she says they were the one who were in charge of the army. This teaches us that every offense by a generation is attributes to its leaders, for they have the ability to object, and if the leaders are corrupt, and then that's why you have a corrupt society. Moshe said to them, did you let all the females live? Why did you leave all the adult females? They were the ones, the females were the ones who went out. They were involved in this whole situation of Bilam. Limsamar B'Hashem, to advise to betray God's on concerning of the story that happened in Valper, with thousands of Jews died. And there was a Magefa because of these women. Now she says that this tells that they could recognize them. These women were one who was so and so sin. They knew exactly who they were. But Dvar Bilam, because he told the Moabites, even if you gather all multitudes of the world, you can't overcome the Jewish nation. You're not going to be able to destroy them. Are you greater than the Egyptians who had 600 choice chariots? Come and I will give you an advice. The God of these people abhors immorality. And that's the best way to do it, is to make them immoral. And therefore get your women to make them sin. So kill every male child. It's a very rough pasuk. You must kill every woman who is old enough to have carnal relationships with a man. Now she says it was Rui Boil, who was able to have a relationship even if she's never had a relationship. They had a woman pass in front of the forehead plate, and the faces who's capable of carnal relationship turned green. Hirgu, you should kill. Why did they repeat the word to pause the sentence? This is the opinion of Ishmael, for I had read only kill every male child and every woman who is old enough to have a carnal relationship with a man, and all the young girls keep alive. I did not know if it means to kill every woman capable of relation together with all males, or to keep them alive with the young girls. It therefore says, Haragu, it says twice to kill. And every woman that hadn't had a relationship, then you should keep alive. Because you're going to kill all these people. You're going to have to live outside the camp, Sheves Yom, for 7 days. Whoever kills a person, whoever touches a dead body, you need to purify yourself. On the third day, on the seventh day, you and your captive. So you become impure, Tommy Mace, Tumas Mace, purity of death. That you can't enter the courtyard. Nefesh. The mayor says the Torah is speaking about to one who killed with an instrument that can contract ritual defilement. So this teaches us, the Torah teaches us over here that the object ritual defiles a person touching it, like the sword. So the sword kills somebody, God forbid, and now the person touching the sword becomes tamei. Just as it would touching the corpse itself, or perhaps applies even to he threw an arrow. That means you didn't touch him, he just threw an arrow. You might think so that you become impure. Therefore, the Torah says who touches a corpse compares one who kills to one who touches. Thus, the one who touches a corpse becomes ritually defiled through the direct contact. So too, God forbid somebody has to kill somebody. with a sword and a gun. So if somebody kills somebody with a sword, since he's holding the sword and he kills a person through the contents, that's if he touched the person. Tischatu, you must purify yourself, and this is with the water of paraduma, with the dashing waters mixed with ashes of the red cow, as law of any other person who ritually defiles himself with a course, even according to the opinion that the graves of Gentiles do not impart ritual defilement to those who are those whose same covered area, as it says, and all my flock, the flock of my pasture, you are Adam, implying that Adam, with respect to Gentiles, is not called in this aspect of impurity. That means, really, according to Jewish law, going to a non-Jewish cemetery, you don't become impure. It's only if you go to a Jewish cemetery you become impure. They don't. The Goyim don't have the laws of purity and impurity. So agrees, but this opinion agrees a Gentile corpse. But if you touch a dead body, everybody would agree that even if it's a non-Jew, whether it's Jew or non-Jew, you become impure. Imparts ritual defilement through touching and carrying them. For Adam is stated regarding ritual defilement in a covered area. It says if a person dies in the tent. So therefore we know that this concept of impurity, you're right. If you go to a non-Jewish cemetery, a Kohen can go to a non-Jewish cemetery because there's no laws of purity and impurity by a non-Jewish. But if talking about a harug, person that is, God forbid, dead, light in front of you, there's no difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. Now she says again, you and your captives intend not to imply that Gentiles can contact ritual defilement. A goy can become impure. There's no such thing. So what does it mean, you and your said? But it's just as you are the member in the covenant, so you're captives. Comes to tell us that a non-Jewish captive that becomes a captive by a Jew becomes Jewish. And that's the concept of a slave too. If a Jew, in the Torah law, if a Jew took a non-Jew as a slave, the non-Jewish slave became Jewish. And he had the laws in certain laws of Yiddishkeit. So that's what the pasuk means. Verse number 20. So too, all garments, leather articles, any article made out of goats, or even wooden articles, must undergo purification. So there's whole laws of tumah and tara, impurity, which is a vessel that can become impure. Not so. These laws are not so simple, but you should. So even till today, there's certain vessels that can become impure. Certain things cannot become impure. Now, this includes objects made out of horn, hooves, and bones, so it can become impure. So the Eliezer the priest said to the soldiers coming from the battle, this is the chukah, now you're becoming all impure. Hashem is Moshe. She says, since Moshe became angry, a few times in the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu got angry, and whenever he got angry, the Rashi says he forgot something. So he made him say, oh, look, the law of purging Gentile utensils of forbidden food. So he forgot this, that they had to do the agola sakelim. That when you not a new keli, when you buy a vessel, a used vessel for a non-Jew, then you have to do hagola. You have to cleanse the vessel from the non-kosher. Here the Torah teaches us this law, the law of agola sakelim, the concept of how you purge a vessel. How do you cleanse a vessel, not from impurity, but from the concept of impurity, go to mikveh. But how do you purge a vessel from non-kosher? So over here, he forgot it for every reason. Moshe Rabbeinu forgot, got angry. And so to find the 8th day inauguration, he became angry. Since he got angry, he forgot. And so too, Moshe Rabbeinu, now listen to you rebels. He forgot when he hit the stone. 3 times in the Torah, you see that Moshe Rabbeinu got angry, frustrated, and because of his frustrations, Pashut forgot halacha, so to say. Verse 20-22. Gold, silver, copper, barzel, iron, bedil, and tin, and lead. So you have these, you'll soon see what that means. So you have metal, basically the metal objects. So only the gold, although Moshe Rabbeinu warned them about the laws of ritual defilement, You must still warn them in the laws of purging, not defilement. This is the concept of non-kosher. Ach is limiting. They are instructed for us to Gentile vessels. Even they are rid of the ritual defilement through a corpse until they are cleansed from the absorbed trace of forbidden carcass. That's why you have two problems. That's why when you buy something new, you have to take it to the mikveh. It's a Torah. That's a Torah law. Taking something to the mikveh is a Torah law. You shouldn't think that's a rabbinical law. So that's a Torah law. You buy something for non-kosher, that's to make a bracha. You buy something, I'm not kosher. You buy something from a store, a regular store, then you have to take it to the mikveh. Certain vessels. You have to take it to the mikveh. But besides that, if you buy a used object, you have to now kasher. Now, there's some things you can't kasher, as you'll soon see. So there's some things that are not kasherable. Like, so you can't buy it. You can't buy a used ceramic dish. You shouldn't buy such kind of dishes. Chinaware, you shouldn't buy China, even though most expensive Chinaware, you should not buy used Chinaware. That's it. To be careful today in general, because you can buy something and it was used. You can buy something today because people can return things and they use it. And you'll sometimes open something, you'll see somebody used it already, even though you thought you bought a new thing, and you cannot, you shouldn't take it back, because if somebody uses it for non-kosher, now you have to kosher it. Forget about going to, you have to kosher it, to kosher it. So you have to make sure when you buy something new that it is actually new today, because people, with this return policy, people can return their objects and they will use it even. So you have to be very careful with this. Yep, because you have to get rid of if they use it for non-kosher. Now you have a different subject. You have a concept of non-kosher in this, and that's what over here Eliezer is talking about. Not about the defilement, but they're kosher. They were used by the binyanim. So, but our rabbis explain the achas hazav, only the gold, because ach is an indication that one must remove it rust before purging. You can't kasher. That's why it's another question. You have sometimes you come to, you have utensils that have rust on it. You have to get rid of the rust. First, you got to get rid of the dirt. You can't kasher something that has dirt on it, rust. That implies the word ach, that no imposing rust should be there, but only pure metal. So therefore, when you kasher something, it has to be clean. Called anything that was in the fire, any utensil that you use in an oven. Today, what that means, you use in an oven. Those days means you use over the fire, in the fire, like an oven. Anything you use in an oven, tavira be'esh, has to be purged by fire. That's why usually those utensils, like a pan, that needs to be done in the fire. You have to do it's called libun. Libun, there's two kinds of libun kal, libun gomer, halacha. That's a libun gomer. You have to put it in the fire. That's like a self-cleaning oven. Put it on a self-clean. I wouldn't put your dishes and wouldn't put your things in the self-cleaning oven. It's going to get totally ruined. And that's the only way. But he still needs to go to the mikveh. If it was got by these utensils were brought by Midian. Not bought, they took it from Midian. But anything that doesn't come in fire, like a pot that becomes non-kosher cooking through hot water, you have to put it back in boiling hot water. So that's a general rule of koshering. Anything that became non-kosher through cooking it could be koshered through boiling water. Anything that went through, came non-kosher in an oven or through oil is also considered like fire. That's the intensity and the heat of the oil. So it has to be done libun. Libun means burning. Kol dava shabesh levasha bekulum. That means anything fire. That means cooking anything. Tavira beish. Because the law is, its purging is done in the same way that it's used. That which is used with hot water is purged by hot water. That which is used through roasting, such as a spit or grill, must be heated with a fire until it's hot. That's why it's very hard to kasher a barbecue, these grills, because they have to do libun. So it's a problem. So it's not that easy. First, it has to be clean, and then it has to be, you have to make it red. You have to turn it, libun means turn the thing red. Achmein is chata. According to this contextual sense, this purification is to rid the ritual defilement caused by the contact of a cord. He told them the vessels require purging to cleanse them from observed forbidden food, and purification to rid them of ritual defilement. That's the simple meaning of the verse, Rashi says. However, in addition, our rabbis derive here that metal utensils require immersion in the mikveh. This is the tefillas kelim. The Chacham said the pasuk means that even if it wasn't used, anything you buy from the store that's not made by a Jewish company, you have to go to the mikveh. You have to bring it to the mikveh. That's the pasuk. Even if it's brand new, to make them fit to use in a Jewish home, have to go to the mikveh. And this is the word mein nida stated is found referring to the minimum amount of water. Mein nida comes to tell you, because it's not a mein nida. We're talking about utensils, not talking about a woman. A woman is a nida. But over here, the Torah wants to teach you that you have to use a kosher mikveh. You can't just fill up your tub and dip your stuff in the tub. And you have to use a kosher mikveh. A kosher mikveh is a mikveh that a woman can go to. If a woman can go to this mikveh, now you know it's a kosher mikveh. Anything else can go. A lot of things, even men today, they don't have to go to a kosher mikveh. They can even not go to a swimming pool. So look at that swimming pool, for example, is not a kosher mikveh. So you can't toivel, you can't dick your utensils in your swimming pool. Why? Because a woman cannot go to a swimming pool either. So anything that a woman can go to and do the mitzvah of mikveh can be used for utensils. That's the general rule. Meaning, wherever does not enter in fire, anything that is not used with fire, such as cups, jars, these are which are used for cold substance and so not absorbed. It is sufficient to immerse them. So here we have the law. This is the big machlekes in the Sfardim Ashkenazim over here, that if you concerning like a cup, do you need a kasher cup? This is like the big debate in Jewish law. Like a glass cup, you need a kasher glass. Could you kasher a glass cup? This is a Lubavitch. Chabad does kasher a glass cup. Whatever. This is a whole separate issue. But in general, over here Rashi says, in essence, that you don't have to kasher a glass cup. You just have to put it in the mikveh, because a glass cup is usually used for cold, not used for hot. Verse number 22. V'chibastem, and you shall bigdechi, you must immerse your garments. B'yei mashvi, on the seventh day, v'tahartem, you shall come pure. V'achachar tovi elamach, then you come into the camp. Now she says, Lamach Neshchina, we're not talking about the camp of the Jews, because no such law that you have to be pure to live in your city. It's talking about the camp of the Beis Hamikdash. She'ein Tomen Meis Tayin Shlich Machli, because the defilement of a dead body, you're not obligated to leave all camps. Only you can come to the Beis Hamikdash. Verse 25. I want you to take account of all the plunder. Hashevi, with all the captives, but whether it's in man, behema, or whether it's an animal, I want you to make an accounting, a calculation. How much is there? Is two together, the kohen and the heads of the community. That's just simple meaning, obtain the total number. Then you must divide the plunder equally between the warriors, that go out to war, and between the entire community. Rashi says, you divide it half to these and half to those. Self-and there can be much more people than those that go out to war. So the those that go out to war get a bigger part. But a mesim mas, then you have to take a meches. You have to take a tax. Hashem, you take a tax from the people. A tzedakah tax from the people of the war. You have to give 1 of 500 of the people. Min habakar from the cattle, min hachamerim, min hatzei from the donkeys. Umatzisam takhu, and then take this tax, and from their half, min hasat lezakay, you give that to lezakay. Whatever the people of the war, give it to the Kohanim. Truma Hashem, that's a truma, that's an offering that they gave to the Kohen. So then take a half. I'm from the half of whatever is given to the Jewish people. Tikar echaz achuz. You must take one of 50. Min hachamishim, min ha'adim, min ha'baka for the people, from the baka, min ha'chamorim, from the donkeys, min ha'tzoyin, from all the sheep, min ha'kel, min ha'kolbeim, min ha'sata is levim. You take a tax, 1/50th of the Jewish nation, you give it to the Levim. Mishmeres HaMishkan, because they are the ones who are the charge of the tabernacle. So give them Maisa, Truma and Maisa. Yas Moshe v'Eleazar Kohen, and Moshe Rabbeinu did exactly. Moshe did that. Now you'll see how much was that. You'll see what was left. You'll see really the amount that they captured. And the plunder, which was in addition to the spoils that the army had amatzav, it's saying Sheish Meis Elef consists of 675,000 sheep. 675,000 sheep. That's the sheep. Rashi says, since they were not commanded to levy tax on movable objects, but only on the living plunder, Torah uses this wording, the plunder, that is subject to division and taxation. In addition to the word buzz, movable objects, that the army had pillaged, each man for himself, not subject to division, the number of sheep. Ubakosh name v'shishim elef, 72,000 cattle. V'chamedim echa v'shishim elef, 61,000 donkeys. V'nefesh adam, and all the people, min anashim, from all the women that were left over. Ashlayadu mishkav zachar was nefesh nayim v'shishim elef, was 32,000. And regarding the half of the portion, those who went out to battle, so this was thus for the rest of the people. Now, how many? The other half was shleishim ela v'shishim v'sheva alafim v'chamish meis. Sheep was 337,500. That means together, both together, was over 1 million sheep. And the tax to God was minat saying for the goats was sheish meis chameshim to 675. Bakar and the cattle was shishim v'shleishim elef is 36,000. Umichsan levaya, and the leftover to God was 72. V'chamedim, and the donkeys over here was 30,500. V'michsan levaya echa v'shishim was 61. V'nefesh adam, and the leftover people was 16,000 over here. Michsan levaya, and the tax was 32 people. Vayitem Moshe's mechas trumas havaya le'Eleazar Kohen, and Moshe Rabbeinu gave it to the Eleazar Kohen. But because Hashem is Moshe, God commanded Moshe. Umachtem Yisrael. And now you have half of the Jews. Umachtem Yisrael. Rashi says the community taken for them from the men who had gone into the army. The community half was 337,500 sheep. That's just kach. That's what it was. The bakar and the cattle was 36,000. The chamedim and the donkeys were 30,500. The nefesh adam and the people were 16,000. And then Moshe obtaining 1/50 of the Jewish nation. He gave it to the Levium. It's interesting over here, the Torah doesn't tell you how much it was. Go figure it out. Shem Mishmeres HaMishkan, that they were the Levium who took care of the Beis HaMikdash, Kashativ Hashem Moshe. Verse 48. And the officers appointed over the army of the thousands, commanders of thousands, they came to Moshe Rabbeinu. So the leaders came to Moshe Rabbeinu, the appointed ones. Verse 49, and the Nifka Menish, they said, your servants counted the soldiers, went out to war against Sichon, five kings. They went out to war, and we made a calculation, and not one Jew died. Not one Jew was killed in this war. Which is an amazing thing. Now, one Jew is missing one. Now, Rashi Nifkad over here means not one Jew is missing. And Rashi brings out a bunch of other psukim which says Nifkad means missing. And therefore, we therefore wishing to bring an offering to God. Isha shemotzik lizav et sada. Any man who found gold articles, be it an ankle, a bracelet, a ring, an earring, a chastise belt, I want to give it all to the Beis Hamikdash. We're giving the leaders, the commanders are giving all the money, all the plunder. They're giving it as a donation. These are the ankle braces. Tamid, this is the hand braces. Ugl, this is the earring braces. Kamuz, a mold or area of the womb, was brought to tone the lustful thoughts. They used to wear these kind of bracelets. He gave it all. He got Moshe Elazar Kohen as Hazav mi'itam. So Moshe and Elazar took all the gold from them. Kol Kli Maaseh, all articles of it. He calls Vav Hatruma Hasherim Alavaya, and the total gold gift that they dedicated was Shisha Osa Ele Vishvam Meis V'Chamishim Shekel, was 16,750 shekel. Made a calculation. That's how much they gave. Meisari Alafim, this was thus given by the commanders. They gave all their gold that they received. Anshe Tzava Bazu, but then the rest of the soldiers' size, they Yishur himself. Hikar Moshe Elazar Kohen Azav, and Moshe Rabbeinu and Elazar Kohen took all this gold. Meisari Alafim Meis from these commanders. He brought it to the tent of meeting. Zikaron L'fnei Hashem, he brought it as a remembrance to God. And that completes the Chumash for today. We now go to the Tanya, which is beginning of the chapter 9 in Igeres HaTshuva. But to get a little bit Kabbalistic here, Alter Rebbe connected it all, as you remember, to the Shem Havaya, to the name of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the tetragram. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, Hey, La, Hey, Tata. You have the upper Hey, you have the lower Hey. Tshuva Ilah, the Tshuva, the higher Hey is Tshuva Ilah, the higher level of Tshuva. And you have Tshuva Tata, the lower level of Tshuva. So Alter Rebbe explained at the conclusion of the previous chapter that through Tshuva Ilah, the higher level of repentance, the soul is totally cleansed and purified. That's when your neshama returns to its pristine state, and then ascends and cleaves to God with the same degree of unity that it enjoyed before it descended into the body. Pashut goes back to its original state. Furthermore, Alter Rebbe quotes the Zohar in the fact that Tshuva Ilah involves studying Torah with awe and love of God. Because that's the ultimate connection. Torah. Torah Lishma. Torah for the sake of its true reason. And that is the connection of God. That's the yearning of God. I learned Torah. I've reached to the level to realize that my whole connection to the Eibush is through Limud Torah. The whole connection to God is through the learning of Torah. And I push it nafshi, as it says, my soul thirsts. The fourth chapter, however, he explained that Tshuva Ilah involves reinstating the higher letter Hey. Right? That's the Tshuva Ilah was the letter Hey to the tetragram. Tshuva Tata is the lower level Hey, the lower last Hey, and Tshuva Ilah was the higher Hey. Right? What is possible connection does it have to the study of Torah out of love and fear of God when these two spiritual emotions are related to the letter Vav? Vav is the concept of emotions. In order to resolve this anomaly, again, we have a problem in the God's name. We have an issue in the Kabbalah of the Eibish's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Is it the concept of the higher Hey, the lower Hey, is the Vav? We have this issue. To those that have this issue, in order to resolve the seeming anomaly, the Alter Rebbe will now explain that the love and fear discussed in the present chapter are generated intellectually. They result from meditating about God's greatness and are thus the offsprings of the Yud Kei. It's specifically this kind of love and fear that unites with the letter Hey, unites the letter Hey with the letter Vav. So even though Vav is emotions and the letter Hey is Bina, is understanding, but we're talking about an emotion that's created through understanding. Right? A person can have an emotion without understanding. He just has the desire. He doesn't know why he has the desire. But we're talking about an emotion that's created through dafka, specifically through understanding. The intellect with the resulting emotion. That's where you're going to put all these concepts together. You have Yud K, Vav K. The Vav is the emotions. Is created through the Hey. Either it's created through Hey, through Tshuva Tata, the lower Hey, or it's created. We want it to be created through the Tshuva, through the Torah, the learning of Torah. That's the concept of Yud K, Chachma and Bina, of the higher level, the first two letters of God's name, which is Tshuva, the higher level of Tshuva. Okay, so let's see as the Alter Rebbe says. It says a little. As I said, it's a little bit kabbalistic, but we've learned this many times, so hopefully we're getting to understand it slowly. And to explain this subject, again, we're learning a Zohar right now, so it's a little bit kabbalistic. It's written in the Zohar HaKadosh, it's written in the Holy Zohar, Tikkunim, and in Tikkun Zohar, in many places of the Zohar. The Bina, understanding, which is the higher Hey, the Hey law, Tshuva law. And that's the concept, Bina, true understanding is Tshuva. Is the concept of Tshuva. Again, you can have an emotional Tshuva, and you can have an intellectual Tshuva. We're looking for an intellectual Tshuva. That's Tshuva law. That it's a Tshuva that comes to intellect. Doesn't come through an emotional. A lot of people do Tshuva when something tragic happens and they're suddenly awakened. That's a Tshuva Tata. It is a concept of Tshuva. But a lot of times, after the thing passes, a year later, life goes on. No, we're looking for Tshuva law, that the Tshuva awakens up to the intellect, so I create a Tshuva through my Hey to Hey law, through my understanding, of godliness. The Bina Tshuva, Aim Revetz, as it's brought down, the mother is crouching over the chicks. Meaning that the mother, Bina, is over the Ava and the Yira. That's the children. The children are the Ava and the Yira, is the love and the fear of God. The mother crouches over them, is standing over them. So Bina is the mother, and her offsprings are the love and fear of God. What does it mean? It ought to be that way, that through a person meditates in God, Amakas Hadas, in a concentration, in a real concentrated way, person contemplates, comprehends. As you need an hour, maybe an hour or two, every day to sit and contemplate this stuff. And through his comprehension, he creates, he arouses. I'm creating Ava. Even though I have Ava in my heart, every Jew has Ava. Ava is Hashem and Yiddish, we all have that. But it's not something that I have. It's something that I actually create through my understanding. I give birth to a new Ava. I'm Pashut creating my own Ava. Through his comprehension, he arouses a sense of intellectual. You have to first be intellectual Ava. An intellectual love of God, an intellectual fear of God. Bituv, tam, v'das, on rational grounds. Chabad. Alter Rebbe demanded, Chabad, Chachma Bina Das. Be a Chabadnik. Be a Chabadnik. Have an intellectual, on rational grounds. Therefore, every person is going to be different. Because every person is going to rationalize the thing to the way he understands it. As it says in the verse, to love God, your God, because he's your life, not somebody else's life. Don't have an Av and Yira because somebody else has an Av and Yira, a love and fear of God. No, because he's Chayecha. I have a love of the Abish because he's my life. I feel that the God is my existence. It's not enough with the Latin love. As I said before, every Jew loves God. Hamasuteres levad, which he has, every Jew has a Latin love, he has a hidden love. This is concealed in the heart of every Jew and needs but to be revealed. Such as a worshiper creates through this and creates instead a love of God through his own intellect. That's what we want to have. We don't want you just to have an awakening because you are a Jew. No, we want you should think about it and create your own awakening through your own intellect. So too when you have fear of God. Don't have a fear of God what somebody else tells you should have fear of God. That's the problem. People have all these fears of God that is based on something, some on all hearsay. You have like people say, I have a fear of God, get ahead of me. Anybody, like what the Gemara says, anybody come and tell you about it? Like, it's all these fears and all these guilt issues that Jews have for no reason. It's based on reason that he doesn't really know. No, you need to create a Avas Hashem, Yiras Hashem, based on your and my intellect. A busha, or embarrassment to God. Okay, no, he doesn't know. This deeper form of awe, in which one feels abashed in God's presence, hence fearing to rebel against him by sinning. One spiritual, emotional love and fear are born in his mind. That's it. We're looking, that's what the Alter Rebbe is looking for. He's looking that I should create, and the truth is, my love and fear, my own love and fear of God might not be totally complete, but it's my love and fear of God. I'm not looking for somebody else's love and fear of God. The Abish is looking for my love and fear of God. How much do I love him, not how much somebody else loves him. That's called the mother that's crouching over the chicks. Means Bina has given birth and hovers over her offsprings. Love and fear of God. Therefore, when you talk of Ava, if you want to understand what Ava is, general, we always talk about love. What is love? Chassidus tells you love is dafka rucha berucha. It's cleaving. Love is the concept of cleaving. When I love something, I want to connect to it. When I love somebody, I want to have a relationship with it. That's love. If I don't want a relationship with it, then I don't love it. That's it. So therefore, if I love the Eibush, I want a relationship with God. That's a stop good ruch v'ruch. Question Kosov. Alter Rebbe brought this verse down before already. Yeshekeinim in a shikis pi. He kisses me with the kisses of his mouth. That's what Shlomo Melech. Shlomo Melech expresses it. A physical kiss unites the inner breath of the spirit of two individuals. Similarly, an internally aspect of soul of God and godliness are united through the breath and speech of Torah. I want to kiss the Eibush. I want God to kiss me. I want to connect spirit to spirit through good deeds. So therefore, Torah, mitzvahs, and most specifically through concentration of Torah, study. The greatest level of connection is Torah study, because that's mind to mind. That's the greatest unity of two people, adas, to know somebody. And this is what the pasuk says in the Shema, b'chol nafshecha. B'ahavta Hashem Elokeh b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha. I want a spirit connection. I want to have this concept. The verse says you love God with all your soul. Shehei meim chel kocheka nefesh, which means I love the Eibush with all the parts of my soul. Seichel, when it's my intellect of my soul. Midas, the emotions of my soul. Uluvasheim, I want to connect with God with the garments of the soul. What's the garments of the soul? Machshava divrei ma'aseh. Thought, speech, and action. As the Alter Rebbe explained at the beginning of Tanya. Excuse me. The dafka kulam is barach to push it, to cleave, to become one in one. Daina midas. I want to connect to the Eibishter through my attributes, my character. For example, Mahu Racham, the verse says, thus like God is merciful, I want to be merciful. I want to have the same mercy as God's mercy. I want to become one with God's mercy. And thus, when a person acts kindly out of the attribute, therefore you should act kindly, not because No, because you have the attribute, you're connected to the attribute of kindness. For example, this emotive faculty of his bond up with God. I want to be kind because God is kind. I want to connect to a higher level of kindness. And I want to do that because intellectually, I understand the greatness that my kindness is limited. I want to have an unlimited kindness. Why wouldn't anybody want to go above their capability of kindness? And so to the intellect of man, I want to have my intellect. I want to connect to Torah intellect. I have to break my head to be able to connect to the intellect of Torah. But that's what I want. Why would I want to have only human intellect? I want to have godly intellect. Because godliness is, the intellect of God is in the Torah. And therefore, I'm going to work hard on trying to connect myself to a greater intellect. Refine my mind to be able to grasp even a holy intellect. Which is to concentrate on the learning of Torah. Because Torah comes from the wisdom of God. And so too in the thought. I want to think like God thinks. Vadibur, I want to speak. I want to learn halacha. I want to learn halacha. Because the word of God is halacha. So I want to talk in the word of God. B'dvar Hashem. As the verse says, Va'asim dvarei, I will put my words befichach in your mouth. Udvarei who's ashasamti before. The verse says, my words have been placed in your mouth. So when I talk words of Torah, I'm talking the Eibish's words. And it might be hard to read the Hebrew, to read the Pasuk, but that's what I want to do. And so too the man's deeds. Likewise, what unites with his deeds, the attribute of tzedakah. Why? That's the greatest aspect of doing God's deeds. To revive the spirit of those that have fallen down, to revive the lowly spirits. That's doing God's action. Acting thus unites man with his maker. For he provides life and revives the spirits. He creates things, just like God created. Just like God made something for nothing, I'm helping people that have nothing to give them something. So there's no greater. That's why the Ma'aseh Tzedakah is the greatest thing. We'll soon get together to get us a Kodesh. All the letters, the Alter Rebbe, which the Alter Rebbe talks about the greatness of Tzedakah. So the greatness of Tzedakah, and he brings down this concept also in those letters. The verse says, I'm sorry. The verse says, what happened? The expression used concerning God's activity in the text 6 days of creation, it says 6 days God created. The verb expression, action and doing, indicates divine power had to descend. You can imagine. That's the greatness of the verse. God, who is infinite, came down and created something for nothing. Asa Hashem, he came down, he pushed it, uplifted the whole world. The world was nothing, made it as something. To descend even to the nethermost level, a mere action in order to create and vitalize inconsequential being of creation. Abraham created everything in the world is nothing to him, and he made it as something. So how do I do that? By helping people that have nothing. Helping a person that has nothing and giving him something is doing the act of God. This is the cleaving of spirit to spirit, in the ultimate attachment and union, when it comes to the result of love. So ultimately, the union with God through Torah is attained only when it's a result of love. That's the most important component in all this. I could do everything, but I can be missing the concept of love. And therefore it says, that even though I'm b'chol nafshecha means just to connect with action, speech, as Alter Rebbe said, but you have to have the love. Because while it is true that when one studies Torah simply out of one accepting the yoke of heaven, he also achieves a measure of cleaving spirit to spirit. This cannot be compared to a degree of attachment when it's attached to the same study and motivated with love. So I can learn out of need and I can learn out of love. I mean, people struggle in school and yeshivas because they think they're learning out of need. They're forced to learn. You need to teach kids to learn out of love, because they'll learn double and triple of the amount that they learn if they learn it out of ava. They learn it with joy because they love the subject. That's the chachma of everyone, to learn, to be able to start learning out of, don't learn because you're forced, you're demanded, threatened. There's a test. No test, no threat. Learn out of love because you want to learn. You're enjoying the learning. And that's what we got to do. So all these things, that's why it's a big problem, because we're missing this component. We are all doing it right, but we're missing the component. A lot of us are missing the component of love. And when you're missing love, it falls apart ultimately. So that's what we need. And because it's unbelievable when a person does it with love. Hence, since Tshuva law is a manifestation of the soul's ultimate attachment to God, it follows that Tshuva law means engaging the study of Torah with awe and love of God. Blessed be He, as it's a, that's why you would think, what is Tshuva law? The hey, I have to do with the vav. What is the what? No, because it needs to be connected to the vav. The vav is the vav, yud kei vav. The vav is the emotions. We need the hey to become part of the emotions, because the hey needs the love. The hey needs the avas Hashem. The hey needs the tshuva la. The higher level needs the love. So if you're just an intellectual person, but it doesn't connect to the ava, something is missing. There's a missing link. And that missing link is avas Hashem and Hashem, which both of them are needed. The concept of love of God and awe, respect of God. Derech eretz kadmul HaTorah, as we say. Respect. Since the violation of the covenant through the wasteful omission, if a person had wasteful omission, if a person, God forbid, had an incest relationship, or he had any kind of prohibition, any sexual prohibition, whether it's a rabbinical or a Isaac, as brought down the Gemara, that rabbinical prohibition is sometimes worse than the Torah prohibition. You should realize that all these things, he blemished his mind. Didn't just blemish his actions. That's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara fools us, says, "Oh, he did something not right, but you didn't. You're still a holy person." Doesn't work that way, and that's why Alter Rebbe is going to give us over here something that will fix everything. He gives us the key of tshuva that's going to fix everything, and that is when you go to tshuva law. That's the fixer, the ultimate fixer of everything. And that is when a Jew comes to the level of tshuva law, it comes to Torah. His tshuva comes to Torah, to learning Torah, not only through emotions, fear, guilt. That's tshuva tata. Fear, guilt, threats, whatever it might be. Gehenim, tshuva. It's also a level of tshuva, but it's tshuva tata. You have to come to the higher level of tshuva because we need to fix everything. We need to fix all the negatives of the past. So therefore, its rectification is to engaging in Torah study, the mechachma nafka, which comes from the wisdom of God. Wisdom is a fixer. The more wisdom I will receive, the more I will fix things. This explains why it's stated in chapter 4 that only tshuva law, the higher level of tshuva, engaging in Torah study, in awe and love of God, blessed be, it affects a remedy of all sins. That's the fixer. That when I create, which is not an easy job, it sounds easy, But when I create tshuva, true repentance, that means I suddenly, through my intellect, love God and respect HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I create a fear of God or a respect of God, embarrassment of God within me. I fix zdoinus nasle kazachis. Even your negative will come positive. This is the trick. This is what's brought down in Tana de Ve'elo, in the statement of Elijah the prophet. Adam over Aveda. If a person did a sin, Elijah said, when it's chayim misla makim, and he, God forbid, he's now in between him and God. He created an opposite of life. God forbid. Ma yasav yichi. What should he do? How does he rectify this negative thing that he brought about a total separation? So the Zohar says, if you used to use only reading one page every day of Gemara, you can base daf. You start learning 2 pages. Lishnis Perek Echad. Usually you're accustomed to study 1 chapter in the oral law. Yishna Beis Bracket. You should learn 2 chapters. So here, the Zohar says, how do you fix something that's a total opposite? Total opposite. The opposite of life, to bring life, is through Torah. Start learning more Torah. Why is sin punished by death? A divine age included in the sin, waste, or omission is rectifiable by the increased Torah study. This is with the Torah reknots the thing. So it resembles a rope that was severed, and you take and re-knot it. So some people re-knot it once or re-knot it twice. It becomes more stronger than it was before the knot. That the knot, the side of the knot, is 2-fold, maybe 4-fold thicker than the rest of the rope. So too in the rope of his heritage, with the soul's bond and source. If this relation was severed by sin, the repentance must re-knot the cord double and 4. And this is accomplished to the Torah study. And this is what's also written in the verse. Through kindness and truth, sin is forgiven. And truth is the Torah. Thus, it's through Torah study that sin is forgiven. Similarly, the statement in Scripture says the sin of the house of Eli will not be atoned by sacrifices and by offerings. It's not going to happen. But the Gemara says, when the Pasuk says, the story of Eli and his sons, Eli had 2 sons, they were big troublemakers, they lost their, whatever, tragic time, the time of Shmuel HaNavi. But, and God says all the sacrifices are not going to help them. So the Gemara says, when the Torah says a sacrifice is not going to help them, it meant God was saying, go and learn Torah. If they would have went and learned Torah, that's how they would have been forgiven. They would have went, even the house of Eli, who did terrible things, and God said, I'm not going to forgive them. But if they would have gone and learned Torah and gone out and do good deeds, God would have forgiven them. As is brought down in the first chapter of Rosh Hashanah. So that's tshuva law. Tshuva is again that I feel bad. Feel bad for the past. I accept the good. Tshuva law is when I do this through learning of Torah. When I do this through my meditation on the greatness of God and on my relationship with God, that's when I ultimately create a new love, a total new love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a total new relationship, a relationship that I didn't have before, a total new relation, as the analogy of the knot, a total new connection that was never connected before. What a Tanya. I want to wish you, today is the 25th day of the month, and the Tillim of the day is chapter 119. the first half of chapter 119. If I do that first half of chapter, I do the Tillim of the day. The Rebbe writes today in the Yom Yom for the 25th of the day. There are two characteristics expressions in Chassidus. Number one, a Jew recognizes godliness and senses the supernatural. He needs no proof for these. Number two, a Jew neither wants nor is able to be surrendered from godliness. Alter Rebbe would say these two expressions. Number one, a Jew recognizes godliness and senses the supernatural, and a Jew neither wants to be able to be sundered from the godliness. Doesn't be cut off from godliness. The truth is that Rebbe says these two expressions are one and the same. A Jew recognizes godliness and senses the higher than natural, and that's why he never wants to be torn away from godliness. They go together. Because I understand the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's why I don't want to be cut off from God. Because I comprehend, Kihu Chayena, just learned Tanya, I comprehend that God is infinite, and the Eibishter is my essence, He's my everything. Therefore, how can I separate from God? It's impossible to separate from God, who's my existence. Okay, God bless you all. I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day. And amid Hashem, I will see you all tomorrow. We will continue as we march to the end of Matis Maseh. I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful day.